Section 1.2, Addition of Real Numbers. To add real numbers, if the numbers have the same sign, add their absolute values and keep their sign. If the numbers have different signs, find the difference between the larger absolute value and the smaller one, and take the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. -7 plus -5. They have the same sign, so you just want to add 7 and 5. That gives you 12. And since they're both negative, your answer is negative. I think of adding signed numbers sometimes as money. If you owe 7 and then you owe 5 more, now you owe 12. Your negative plus negative equals a negative. 8 plus a -3. These have different signs, so you want to take 8 minus 3, subtract their absolute values, you get 5, and the answer has the same sign as the larger of the two numbers, so it's a +5. Again, if you think of it as money, you have $8 in your checking account, you write a check for 3, your balance is now $5. -11 plus 9. So subtract their absolute values. They have opposite signs. 11 minus 9 is 2. And the answer has the same sign as the larger number, so it's negative. Again, if you think of it as money, your checking account balance is -$11. You owe the bank $11. If you deposit 9, you still owe the bank. How much do you owe them? You owe them $2. -6 plus 12. These have opposite signs, so you subtract the absolute values. 12 minus 6 is 6. And the sign is the same as the larger of the two numbers, which is 12. So the answer is +6. If you think of it in terms of money, you owe the bank $6, you deposit 12, so you covered your $6 debt, and you now have a balance of +$6. We need to be able to work with fractions. If they have a common denominator, you just want to add the numerators. So 4 plus 6 over 11. 10 elevenths. If they have different denominators, you have to figure out the least common multiple of 2 and 3. The smallest number that both 2 and 3 divide evenly into is 6. So we want to change each fraction so that it has 6 as the denominator. We need to multiply this fraction by 3. Whatever we do to the denominator, we have to do to the numerator. So we multiply them both by 3. In order to get 6 in this fraction, we have to multiply numerator and denominator by 2. That will give us 3/6 plus 4/6. So now we have 7/6 as our answer. You can leave that as 7/6, or if you want to, you can make it 1 and 1/6. Either way, doesn't matter. 1/12 plus 3/9. We know that 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. 9 is 3 times 3. So our least common multiple will be 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. So that's 4 times 9, 36. That will be our least common denominator. We have to multiply this first fraction by 3 over 3. And the second fraction needs to be multiplied by 4 over 4. So that gives us 3 over 36 plus 8 over 36, 11 over 36. Three-tenths. 10 is 2 times 5, 15. 3 times 5. So our least common multiple, 2 times 3 times 5, 30. So we need to multiply this first fraction by 3 over 3, and the second one by 2 over 2. So that's 9 thirtieths plus 18 thirtieths, 27 thirtieths. And that's our answer. That's all we're going to look at in section 1.2. So now we'll go to 1.3. Our properties that we will be studying: the additive inverse property. For any real number a, there is exactly one number negative a, such that a plus negative a equals 0, and negative a plus a equals 0. So if you add a number and its opposite, you get 0. And that opposite is also called the additive inverse. Additive identity property: a plus 0 and 0 plus a both equal a. So if you add 0 to a number, you still get the same number. Commutative property: a plus b is b plus a. I like to think of commuting to work. You go back and forth to work. So a plus b equals b plus a. Associative property: an associate is someone that you work with, maybe, or that you're friends with. So the parentheses can indicate that you're changing associates. A plus b in parentheses plus c is the same thing as a plus b plus c in parentheses. So you can associate the a and the b together, or the b and the c. It doesn't matter. So let's use these properties to compute and simplify. So what we found out is that a number and its opposite equals 0. So from this first example, because we have 5 and its opposite added together, we know we're going to get 0. We found out we can rearrange, we can put them in any order we want to, and we can group them however we want to. So I kind of like to put the negative numbers together. So negative 2 plus negative 12 is negative 14. And then put the 7 and the 4 together. 7 plus 4 is 11. What is negative 14 plus 11? Negative 3. What can we do with these numbers? It'd be okay to group all those negative numbers together. Negative 4 plus negative 3 is negative 7 plus negative 10 is negative 17. How about let's group that 7 and the 8 together? That's plus 15. And if you combine those, what's your answer? Negative 2. Tiger Woods scored his first major, the Masters, in 1997. His score for the 4 rounds were negative 2, negative 6, negative 7, and negative 3. What was his final score? So we need negative 2 plus negative 6 plus negative 7 plus negative 3. I'm kind of tempted to group these two guys together and group these two guys together. So that would give us negative 8 plus negative 10. And if we combine those to get his final score, negative 18. That's a great score. So let's do subtraction of real numbers in section 1.3. To subtract real numbers, add the opposite of the number being subtracted. So a minus b is the same thing as a plus a negative b. It doesn't matter how you write it. A minus b, a plus a negative b, same thing. A lot of students will look at a problem like this, negative 7 minus 6, and they don't understand what's going on. But if I write it, I say, hey, this is the same thing as negative 7 plus a negative 6. You can change subtraction to plus a negative. It's the same thing. Then that seems to clear the situation for them. So they see the answer is negative 13. So if you need to write subtraction as plus a negative, feel free. 8 minus 10, you might want to write that as 8 plus a negative 10. Either way is fine, as long as you understand that the answer is negative 2. Negative 3 minus a negative 7. Now this one's a little different because you're subtracting a negative. Now we said subtraction is the same thing as adding we said subtraction is the same thing as adding the opposite. So what happens when you add the opposite of a negative 7? It becomes plus 7. Subtracting a negative, these two negatives, I like to think of them as those two negatives, cancel each other out. So subtracting a negative is the same thing as plus a positive. Negative 3 plus 7, 4 is our answer. Here's another situation of subtracting a negative. So it's the same thing as negative 5 plus a positive 4. Negative 1. 11/15 minus 1/9. Even when we're subtracting, we still have to have a common denominator. So we have 15 is 3 times 5. 9 is 3 times 3. Our least common multiple is 3 times 3 times 5. 45. So that's our common denominator. We need to fix both fractions so that they have 45 as their denominator. Multiply the first fraction by 3 over 3. The second one by 5 over 5. That gives us 33 over 45 minus 5 over 45. And what is 33 minus 5? 28 over 45. That's it. Common denominator here, do you know what it is? Do you need to factor it? 2 times 11, 3 times 11. So our least common multiple, or our least common denominator, is 2 times 3 times 11. 66. So we need to fix both fractions so that they have 66 in the denominator. So that gives us 9 over 66 minus 10 over 66. We have 9 minus 10. That's a negative 1 over 66. And that's our answer. Common denominator here. 16 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. So our least common multiple is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. 16 times 3, that is 48. So we need to fix both fractions so that they have 48 in the denominator. Have to multiply the first one by 3 over 3. That gives us 48 in the denominator. 45 over 48. Multiply the second one by 4 over 4. That'll give us 48 in the denominator. And now we have 20 in the numerator. So 45 minus 20 is 25 over 48. And that's our answer. Remember that subtraction is not commutative. You can't swap it back and forth. You can't swap the numbers back and forth. And it's not associative. You can't just change the way you associate things by putting parentheses in there willy-nilly. So let's compute and simplify. There are different ways to do this problem. The way that I like to do it is I like to first think what's happening with the signs. Minus a negative 2 is the same thing as plus 2. Minus a negative 4 is the same thing as plus 4. So then I have minus 12 plus 3. So I can do the subtraction problems together. I have minus 6 minus 12, that's minus 18. I can do the addition problems together. I have 2 plus 4 is 6 plus 3 is 9. That gives me a negative 9. That's one way to do that problem. There are other ways. If you have another way that makes sense to you, but you're consistently getting the right answer, you're fine. So we have minus 7 plus 5 plus 3 minus 2 plus 4. So I like to think about combining the subtraction there. That's minus 9. And then think about what's happening with those positive numbers. 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 4 is 12. Minus 9 plus 12 is 3. The high temperature for a day was 10 degrees Fahrenheit, and the low temperature was 5 degrees below Fahrenheit. Find the difference between the highest temperature and the lowest temperature that day. So the difference between the highest and the lowest. So that's 10 plus 5, 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That's all for section 1.2 and 1.3.